Hi Mary, hi Matt. Today I'm going to disassemble a duck for you. So important things you need to know when you're disassembling a duck. First piece of gear, always have a drink out of respect for the duck. A sharp knife, pair of sharp knives is better. Cast iron pan or some other pan with a little bit of water in the bottom, and that's what you're going to render your fat with. So the duck's going to get split up into a couple of components. You're going to have parts of the duck that you'll use for meat, and that's going to be the two breasts and the two legs, thighs. There's going to be parts of the breast that you use for stock, and that's going to be the carcass that's left over and the wings. Duck wings are pretty much useless for anything aside from stock. I mean, you can cook them, but they're kind of tough, and they don't have a whole lot of meat on them, so they kind of contribute more to stock than they really do to feeding somebody if you're thinking from like a meat standpoint. So really and the other component, and probably one of the most important, is all of the skin that's not used on top of the leg, thigh, and breast is going to be used to render fat, and a duck gives up a lot of fat. So first off, we'll talk about a couple of stock components. So every one of these is going to come with a neck and probably a bag, or if it came from a little farm, maybe just a pile of gizzards on the inside. And then after that, you're looking at this duck, and it's going to have a big opening, lots of fat, lots of extra skin. The legs you can kind of feel move when you do this. Important to know. More skin right here from the neck. Try to hold off on cutting the skin off until you've got a good understanding of where the meat is first. So I would start off with your little sharp knife and grab this big flap of fat right here. So there's going to be a lot of fat and a lot of skin. And if you go right to where sort of, I don't know what the name of that is, but sort of the end of the breastbone and the beginning of that hole, you're going to see a piece of skin, and you're going to see fat on the back of it. Just give that a little bit of a slice, and you see there's no skin there. There's no meat in there. So all you're going to do is come around here, follow that, and you can see the meat, and you can feel where the knuckle of the joint is right there, or the joint is. Give it a little cut, get in there, make sure you're not really getting any meat underneath there. It's all fat still. And so there I'm looking at leg meat. So I'm going to cut in there. And then I want to make those two cuts join, but just right at the skin. So I haven't really cut any meat at all, and haven't touched the breast yet. That's going to be kind of an important part there. So either way, now I have the leg here. I can just sort of cut down and follow this non-meaty part of the leg. So before I do anything more with the knife, I just want to pop the joint. So you can feel the leg joint, it's really the hip joint right here. All you have to do is just come all the way through and pop that, and then you can see the joint right here. So if you just give a little cut, then you're staring at the hip joint, ribs, you know you don't have any good meat there that you're cutting, and then the body kind of shows you where it needs to get cut. Follow all the way down and just come down to the backbone right here, and you know you won't cut anything important if you follow the backbone, and then just peel the meat away slowly but surely. And then this way you've got the hip joint popped, and you can just follow the carcass. And that way, this is kind of a careful way to make sure that you don't cut any of that nice leg meat. And so there's a little bit of meat left on the carcass. That's okay. It wasn't going to do you good for your leg anyway. And you're going to see a common theme emerge here. And that is, it's better to have more skin on the piece of meat at first, and then just leave it and trim that up later. So there's a leg gone. So we can do the same thing on the other side. This side I'll go just a little bit faster on. So if you feel comfortable, you can just find where that joint is, and then just cut right through it. Make sure you're not cutting that breast at all. And again, we're just cutting back down in this direction. So once you feel comfortable getting that leg away, same thing on this side as you did on the other side. Find that joint, just hit it with your thumb and pop the joint. Once you pop the joint, again, you can really just start doing this. Get in there, and if you need to, when you're staring at the joint, you just cut in between with your knife. And then same thing, make sure your fingers aren't in the way. Come down to the backbone here. You've already got that nice slice. And just make sure your leg is coming away from your carcass without too much wasting meat. And again, a lot of this meat's going to come away because this stuff isn't really part of the leg, it's part of the carcass. But now, same thing like I said a minute ago, you've got a lot more skin on that cut of meat than you need. So again, better to have that right now and worry about it later. So now to the breast. You have a keel bone, so you really can hit that bone with your knife. Find the keel bone and just make a little slice right on top of it. A lot of people say slice to one side or the other, but if you slice right on top of it, you won't get any meat at all. And then you won't really go through the meat. You can see the keel bone right there. Stick your knife straight down and follow the keel bone. So just keep going straight down there, and don't get away from the keel bone yet at all. Switch hands with your knife if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable switching hands, then just follow that keel bone, or just flip the whole bird around and follow that keel bone. So I'm going all the way forward, and I'm past the breast there, but I'm going to sit there and cut there anyway. So without pulling the skin away, just take this meat, and all you do is you just kind of shave it away from the bone. And some of that you're going to trim away later, that's rib meat, but either way, I'm just shaving it away from the bone. I'm kind of cutting in this direction. I'm not cutting enough to bite into the bone, but I'm not cutting enough to actually get any breast meat. So I want to just keep shaving that meat here. And I have not removed the wing first, because I think if you take the wing off first, that's a real easy way to start cutting into the breast meat by accident. And so I'm staying as close as I can to the bone here, and you start to notice you leave the breast at some point. And this is the wishbone right here. Just kind of follow it along. And again, I'm just trying to stay as close as I can to that. There's going to be a little meat left on there, that's all right. And so really I'm almost all the way through the breast right there. But again, it's better to end up with more skin connected to the meat as opposed to less meat connected to the cut that you want. So if you see any sort of cartilaginous things, just make sure you cut those away. And so like I said, I'm kind of away from the meat. I'm going to cut a line through the skin here and just get this breast away from the duck. So that's the duck breast. On some ducks it's going to be bigger and fatter. On this duck it's not real big. This flap that's hanging off is really rib meat that isn't directly part of the breast. There's no way to keep that connected, so if that's off a little bit, that's fine. Again, better to have more skin. So leave that there. Some of that stuff we're going to trim away in a second. So just to show you one more breast. Keel bone's right here. Just stab straight down right next to the keel bone. And then you'll hit more bone. And then follow that keel bone. Just keep the blade of your knife oriented towards the keel bone, and you won't waste meat. And same thing. Switching the other direction here. Follow the keel bone. And then, like I said, shave down the bone. And this is making a crunchy sound because it's not quite as thawed out as I should have had it. And I don't want to waste any of this meat, but if there's a little bit of meat on there, on the carcass, that's fine because I'm going to use that carcass for stock anyway. Well, not all of it. I'll show you what I do with the rest of it in a second. But again, here I'm looking at meat. I pull it away. As long as I see skin, I'm okay. So again, I want to shave close to the bone, make sure all of that breast meat is off because I don't want to waste any of that. And I also want to have enough skin to where I can have a clean piece of skin on the outside of that breast, whether I cook it or cure it, doesn't matter. So now again, I've got a breast, I've got a little extra meat, or a little bit of extra skin on either side. And so now let's just take a look at the carcass for a second. Anything that's skin on that should not go to waste. So this is skin, this is skin. All of the duck skin has so much fat on it. I should probably put that knife down. Okay, so all of that stuff, that is going to go into the pot to render. All of this is good. All of this is good. You should just try to remove as much skin and fat as you can, because skin and fat and stock doesn't really do you much. But when you render that, it's going to hopefully give you enough to make confit out of the legs. And again, I'm just trying to shave off as much of this as possible. So let's get back to this in a second. This isn't that important right now. So let's stick this with stock components. And then sip of beer real quick. Okay, so looking at the breast, you can do this in one of a couple ways. This is where I like to use a bigger knife because I get a cleaner line. So I don't really want to have a lot of extra skin over the edges. So all I do is I kind of find where the meat is, pull the meat back just a little bit, make a straight line, and then just cut straight through. And then when you look at it from this side, you'll see there's a little bit of meat sticking out. So same thing over here. I won't pull too much on that side because it's kind of loose, but just nice straight line. And same thing over here, just get a little bit of that off. And I'm not cutting any meat off if I can avoid it. So what I end up with is I end up with a breast that's got a little bit of meat sticking out on both sides, but nice square, kind of pleasant looking skin. That's a finished cut. We'll do the same thing over here. So and same sort of thing, enough skin to kind of do something interesting with. So that's all going to get rendered out. So usually as I go, I kind of chop it up a little bit. And just keep in mind when you're using a knife here, try to have a non-duck handling knife when you do this. And that's going to go straight into this water here. And that's going to start to render. And once you get a little bit of water and that in there, you can kick the heat up a little higher. Okay, so same thing here. Never trim when you're looking at this side. Always trim over here. So let's find the edge of this. Let's find the edge of this duck here. So there's meat. So I'm just going to cut a straight line there. Double check. Okay, cool. Same thing here that I did on the breast. Make myself a nice straight line. Play around with the skin until you kind of see. So there we go. I have a reasonably sort of, not symmetrical, but at least neat looking duck leg there. So same thing here. Again, always look at the meat. And if you're looking at the meat, you're not likely going to cut through the meat. So there's meat. I'm going to lose a little bit of that. same sort of thing there. So it's like I can get neaten up a little. Yeah, there you go. See a little bit of extra skin. As long as there's not too much extra meat. There we go. Reasonably neat looking. That looks kind of ugly. There we go. So that's usable meat from a duck right there. The rest of this stuff, it's mainly skin for rendering. And remember, when you render, always have a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan so it doesn't stick. That water will go away soon. And it'll take you a while to render. But the more skin that you can put in that pan to render into fat, the more likely you are to get enough out of a duck to confit the legs. But again, there's a ton. That's just the neck itself. I mean, there's a ton of skin on this thing. And you know, if you're in a little more of a rush, you can cut those pieces smaller. If you're not really in a big rush, what you end up doing is just, you know, throw big pieces of duck fat in there. And that is, for the most part, kind of how you pull a duck apart into its useful sort of components. You can roast a duck whole. But if you want to get the best out of a duck, I think you cook the legs and the breasts separately, doing different things. And of course, you got that nice carcass and gizzards and everything left over. Oh yeah, also cool. And here, you've got the liver from the duck, and that is really, really nice on its own, or you can do different stuff with it. I've been pretty boring in the past, just like salt, pepper, and stick it in a pan and eat it myself. But aside from the liver, all the other stuff in there, and the carcass is great for making stock. That's kind of what we have going right there. That's a few ducks worth of stock, or a few ducks worth of carcasses. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful for you, and good luck pulling your duck apart.